Eric, I have normally looked at the world in a classic tension between theism and atheism, and which one is winning, and what are the arguments on both sides. In today's world, it's atheism is a very hot subject. You reject theism, I know that. Do you consider yourself an atheist?
Well, I reject traditional monotheism, right? The traditional view that there is a personal omnigod, Pog. I don't believe in Pog. For some, that makes me an atheist. Others think that I must be a super theist because I believe in, or my theory posits infinitely many gods, little g gods. Some say, again, that makes me an atheist.
Or a polytheist, an animist looking at God, gods all over.
Well, I'm not an animist, but because there are no gods in any universe. But the new atheists, no, I'm not a new atheist. I'm very interested in and committed to spirituality. I think religion does an enormous number of positive things. It has, of course, negative things. I agree with the new atheists in their attack on Abrahamic fundamentalism, their attacks on Christian fundamentalism, Islamic or Judaic fundamentalisms. So I think they're right about that. I think that what we need are better religions, and I wouldn't want to get rid of religion.
Why?
Why do we need better religions?
Why do you need religion at all?
I think that being religious, or maybe being spiritual, is a way of relating to an aspect of the world that's really there. I'm a theological realist in the sense that I think there are aspects or structures or parts of reality that are divine or that are sacred. I experience that.
Not just a human-imposed construction.
Not just a human-imposed construction. I think we have, most of us, pretty good brains. I'm not sure how good mine is, but when I think about the structure and complexity of reality, I'm persuaded that there's divinity there.
Why?
Why? Because it's here. First of all, because there is something rather than nothing, probably because it's beautiful. Because I experience the beauty of reality, and I don't just mean the beauty of a nice flower or something like that. I mean, sure, I experience that, but I experience the beauty of mathematics, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I think the fact that it is that way persuades me that there's a divine or holy aspect to reality that I need to try to understand. And as people generally have tried to come to grips with that, they've generated religions based on their experiences of life. The religions we've got are religions that are very old, from very old ways of living. Troubles with science, troubles with morality, all kinds of things. We need better religions if we're going to be religious at all.
What would be a better religion? What would your religion have? If I was going to go to your organization and I would be your first congregant, what would I feel? What would I have to do?
I'm a philosopher, man. I don't make religions.
All right. Well, you're saying we need them.
I think we need them.
All right.
But I would be totally incompetent at providing one.
The people who made them, they were competent?
Well, they made them. So I don't think that that's my job. I think that I'm trying to provide people with concepts that they can use to try to help them understand and structure their spiritual experience. Somebody might read or look at the philosophical work I do, or other philosophers do, and say, I think I can work on this and generate kinds of social ways of participating in this or affirming the positive values that are in a philosophical theory. I think that'd be great for me.
Many of the new atheists talk about an awe in reality and a majesty and spirituality with a small s. That there's an appreciation of it. Not everyone does, but many of them do. The key question is, and that I put to you, is your sense of the spiritual needs that you feel or that people feel, is that something that's just self-generated, or is it tied to reality? Because I am really interested whether there's a reality out there that is truly a transcendent something, or spiritual or divine or something. But I don't feel a need personally to experience it. I don't. Maybe that's a deficit that I have. Everybody has a deficit. That's one of my many. I don't feel that need, but I'd like to know if it's real.
It's a very interesting question about whether or not our psychological needs or emotional needs or experiences drive us towards these questions about spirituality or religiosity. And as a philosopher, I've got to be skeptical of my own experiences and needs in psychology that maybe just says, maybe I'm just making this stuff up and I've got a decent brain and training and I make elaborate theories just because I've got something wrong with me. Right? Maybe mommy was, mean to me or something, or nice to me, and I've got these ideas now. So I'm skeptical of my own tendency to spiritualize reality. But even with that skepticism in mind, I do it. Right? And so, in fact, one of the things about being a theological realist means you may come to the conclusion that there is no divine reality. I mean, there not being any of it would be the default case.
So being a theological realist means that you will look at theology in a straightforward manner and not try to analyze it in terms of your own internal constructs, or what does that mean?
Being a theological realist means trying to look at reality and see what's divine or sacred about it.
And there could be a null set there.
Could be a null. It could be, the answer could be nothing.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Right?
Good. I'm with you. I'll go along for that ride.
Well, so I may be defective in projecting, manic and projecting too much into it. I hope not, right? But I think the new atheists have given us lots of reason to be cautious about the old ways of being spiritual or religious. In fact, I've shown that I agree with them. They don't work.
The old ways.
The old ways.
Right. But you're creating new ways.
Well, I hope I'm creating new philosophical ideas that people can use to think about how to be religious in new ways.
And you think that's good? You think that's a benefit?
I think it's a benefit.
Most of the new atheists would say that's another liability. You're like giving methadone to heroin addicts.
So, okay. An interesting analogy. I'm going to disagree that I do think that the old religions may have that kind of heroin aspect, but hopefully, you don't get methadone. You get some healthy, nutritious way of living.
It sounds like a halfway house to wean them off of their prior problems.
Well, if the halfway house is a better house.
Better house, yeah, but it's still a fantasy, but it's just a fantasy maybe that's closer to reality. People can accept it and help them move on to a purely naturalistic, scientific way of looking at the world and eliminating all those problems.
If it's closer to the truth, if it's closer to reality, I think it's a better fantasy.
Closer to truth, I'm always...
There you go. I would like to think it's not a fantasy. Now, again, I have to be skeptical as a philosopher. But I think that there are many aspects of the new atheism which are also a faith. I mean, there's a strange faith in the power of science. Now, I'm a naturalist in the sense of affirming the scientific method, affirming scientific reality. But I think the new atheists have taken that to the point of scientism. I mean, they believe, and it's a faith, that a kind of positivism, right, settles all questions about reality. That the scientific method settles every question. Yes. Now, the problem with that is there's no scientific basis for that claim. That's a faith claim, right? That's a faith in science. Now, some people will think like, well, maybe I'm into mystery or something like that. And I'm not. Right? I don't like mysteries. I don't think anything should be mysterious. But I think it's also a faith claim to say that truth is reducible to science. If you could give me scientific evidence for that, fine. But there's none. Right? Science studies the structure of our universe. And in fact, it's the best way to study the structure of our universe. And I will never say things like there are gaps in science when it comes to like, oh, consciousness, science can't understand that. No, it can. I think that science studies our universe, and that's it. The structure of our universe. And it's the best way to do it. But that doesn't mean that it gives you access to the truth. Truth is prior to the scientific method.
What is resident in truth that is not accessible by science? Specifically?
Specifically? Well, let's just ask the kinds of questions that philosophers have always asked, these limit questions. So we might start with the old chestnut of why is there something rather than nothing? Science can't answer that. Science is going to give you a causal account, a causal story, and that's going to presuppose something that's already there to be the cause.
That one I understand. What else?
So another one is, why does our universe have the structure that it has?
It's kind of the same question a little bit.
No, not really. I mean, because there could be just a bunch of
Sure.
chaotic crap.
Right, right.
So why does it have the laws that it has? Why does it have laws at all? Why does it have laws that are conducive to the evolution of intelligent life?
Well, science could answer that by saying there's only one way that the laws could be. That's still an open question. I mean, that would be a scientific answer. If you could show that there's only one mathematical, coherent way that underlies the structure of all matter and forces, that would be an answer to that question. But it could only be that way. Seems unlikely, but that's an answer.
But that wouldn't be an answer that would be an empirical answer. That would be an answer that comes from the study of a mathematical structure, right? And so now you're getting into all kinds of questions about necessities. Why is it that that's the only way? And sure, fine, I'd be open to that. I mean, if there were an answer like that, I would be forced to accept it, and I would. But these are just some of the questions that a naive empiricism of the new atheism, the new atheists have a very naive empiricism. They think that simply through, they take Karl Popper and think that falsifiability is truth. If a theory is not falsifiable, it's false. And that's a faith statement. Mm-hmm. There's no scientific evidence. In fact, there's no scientific evidence that falsifiability is the guide to truth. Right. So I would only say that there are, various kinds of questions that can't be argued by an empiricism, an empirical kind of science. And the new atheists are guilty of thinking that everything can be empirically settled. The only questions are empirically decidable. They're not.